Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface. Welcome back to another series here with Motorsport Manager. It seems like a hell of a long time. What is it? Might be nearing 2 years. Is it over 2 years since I last made a video explanation? I got a little frustrated with the game. Constant crashing, probably to do with the mods that I were using. Last time out we were going through the Williams career, everything was done. I'd done a lot of work in adjusting the database, bringing in a lot of new things into that series, but the mod got updated. I forgot to make a backup of it. It overwrote all the changes I'd made, changed the drivers, changed the portraits. I was just like, I give up. Just took a massive break from the game, massive break from YouTube. But we're back. We've got a little bit of time due to the current situation going on in the world right now. I've got a little bit of time. The Australian Grand Prix has been cancelled this weekend. The time I had set aside to do that, I'm going to take that time and make some videos. Get back in this series. So this is a mod that I have been working on to make another game, make another series. I'd been working on this for a hell of a long time. We're going to be playing as Audi Sport, re-entering F1. It is going to be the 2021 season. We're just going to skip the 2020 season altogether. It's done and dusted in this game. There is a little bit of history there. We'll go through it. It's all in the descriptions here, which you're going to be reading, because this is just pretty much a season preview of what is going to be coming up in this series, what the teams are, who everyone's moved to, where everyone is at the moment, where the cars are at. Just pretty much a season preview. We're not going to get into the Australian Grand Prix in this episode, because this is probably going to log in about 20 minutes. I don't want to make this video upwards of an hour, including a race, so that is what we're going to get into here. I've built this mod pretty much from the ground up. We've used a few things from other mods, incorporated them into this game, some of the liveries, but most of the liveries have been adjusted, pretty much done by me, like this Audi one I built from the ground up. I'm not the best at doing it, but at least I managed to get the Audi rings on the top. We managed to get the Audi Sport down there. There will be an Audi sponsor on here once we actually get into the game. There will be an Audi sponsor on there going down the side. But anyway, we're going to jump in now to this season preview. Here we are, Audi Sport Formula 1 team. And this is it. Audi shocked the world in 2020 when they announced they would be running a Formula 1 race team in 2021 with the new regulations. Then shocked everyone else again when Sebastian Vettel announced he would be leaving Ferrari and joining Audi to be partnered by a returning Pascal Wehrlein. Powered by their own engine, they will be hoping they can at least somewhat be competitive in their first season in Formula 1. So there we go, Sebastian Vettel jumping from Ferrari, having disappointing... Let's be honest, he's had a disappointing spell with Ferrari. No world titles, Ferrari not won any constructors titles. 2020... in this season, they didn't win again. Another disappointing season for them. It was won by Mercedes and Lewis. Again, Lewis is still here at Mercedes, as we will see in a moment. This is not going to be the livery we're using. Once we actually get into the game, I'm going to have to change this livery, because once it does get to a race, it does look too similar to the Haas on track. So we're going to change these colours around a little bit once we actually get into the game. But there we go. We've got this. We've actually put the India concept here of the car, which was made by Django's Livon it's on the workshop is this model, so I'll put a link to that down below. This mod, as I said, has been built from the ground up. It is a very rough mod, so it won't be on the workshop for quite a while. I don't know how I'm going to get it out there if anyone does want it, but it might be something I think of actually releasing it, because there's been no work done on the rest of the game. F2, F3, it's just there as things I can pick up and edit later on to move drivers about and stuff like that. Anyway, let's move on to Mercedes. Actually, let's just move back to Audi here. As you can see, we've got Vettel and Wehrlein as the drivers. We're ranked pretty much about midfield in drivers. Wehrlein not as good as Vettel. Vettel still rated as one of the best drivers in the game, and our car a little bit lower than average, which is somewhere around here. So we've got a lot of work to do. Our engine, can I remember, our engine is not as up to scratch as the other teams, although I do think we have a pretty good engine. I think it's the front wing, rear wing sort of things that we need to work on. But as it is, that's where we're at. Sponsors down. We've got pretty decent headquarters. But anyway, and yeah, we've got 12 teams here as well, as you can see. But anyway, we'll move on to Mercedes. Mercedes have dominated Formula 1 since the introduction of hybrid engines in 2014. After winning the 2020 title for a record-tying 7th time, world champion Lewis Hamilton is now partnered by Max Verstappen, who Mercedes see as their future after prizing him away from Red Bull. Can Lewis beat Verstappen to take Schumacher's record, and can Mercedes stay ahead of the field with the new regulations for 2021? So as we can see, Mercedes, not the strongest car here. Obviously, with Hamilton and Verstappen, they have the best driver lineup in the game, but the car a little bit lacking this year. So can Lewis and Verstappen extract the best out of this car? As you can see, this livery I've changed. I put the Mercedes sort of thing. I tried to get it in there a little bit. It looks all right. And we've got the red in there for Nicky as well. So Mercedes, obviously a really strong driver lineup here with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Are they going to be able to keep Mercedes ahead here under these new 2021 regulations? We move on to Ferrari. Ferrari have the best car. Drivers, not quite all the way there, but we'll see who is in that second seat. Obviously, Leclerc will still be in the number 1 seat, but we've got the Maranello outfit. He's hoping for a better year after a disappointing season last time out in 2020. Vettel has left the team for the new Audi outfit, as Leclerc now takes a spot as the out-and-out number 1 driver. After missing out on a number of targets, namely Daniel Ricciardo, Ferrari reached out and brought Nico Hülkenberg back to F1 after he sat out the 2020 season, after losing his drive at Renault. Can Ferrari get a hold on the new regulations, and can Hülkenberg step up to the plate and help Ferrari challenge? So it's a little bit underrated here. Hülkenberg's still a pretty decent driver in this game. Charles Leclerc, obviously one of the better drivers, obviously probably going to be the best driver in the game, up there with Max Verstappen as time goes on. But Ferrari looking particularly strong here. Nico Hülkenberg, who almost had a drive at Ferrari. When was it? Is it back in 2011 when he nearly did get the Ferrari drive at one point and just missed out on it. But obviously he's in here, a nice solid number 2. Is he going to be enough to help Ferrari challenge up there with Mercedes? Obviously they've got the best car. Obviously you would say on balance there, looking at those between those two, that Mercedes have the edge a little bit. Anyway, we'll move on to Red Bull here. A slight change in the logo, and obviously you can see Honda Racing is there just underneath now. Honda Racing Formula 1 team. And having last won the championship in 2013, Red Bull are hoping their 2021 challenger and a stronger partnership with Honda will take them to the top once again. So a stronger partnership with Honda, as we can see with the livery here. White signifying more of a partnership with Honda. We've got Honda plastered all over the car with Red Bull. So it is pretty much a Red Bull Honda endeavour now, tied together pretty much equally going forward. Verstappen has left for Mercedes. Now Red Bull has reached out, and in a move most thought would never happen, have brought in Fernando Alonso to partner the much younger Alexander Albon. So as we can see, this car, this Red Bull Honda car, slightly just under the performance of the Ferrari. So looking really strong for Red Bull with Alonso and Albon in that car. Is a pretty decent driver lineup, actually rated better than the Ferrari lineup. So with that car, you would say here, going by the first 3 teams here, Red Bull in with a really strong chance here, and obviously a move that might be a little bit outside the realm of believability, but then again, why not? Red Bull short on drivers at the moment. If Max Verstappen made the jump, they've lost Ricciardo. Alonso is just sitting there waiting to come back to Formula 1. He's in that car, in a title challenger. What can the aging, but still quite exceptional Fernando Alonso do in that Red Bull car? We move on to Renault, back with the classic blue and yellow. Obviously, I was quite tempted to put Alonso in this car, but Daniel Ricciardo's already there. Esteban Ocon is already there. I didn't really want to mess too much with that driver lineup. But anyway, let's jump into the Renault team. 2021 is looking like a good year for Renault after a poor 2020. Winter testing has shown Renault have a good car and a good pace. It could be challenging at the top this season. Most had expected Ricciardo to abandon the Renault project and rejoin Red Bull following the departure of Verstappen, or take the open seat at Ferrari. Instead, Ricciardo has opted to stay with Renault. He's extended his contract for another year. That option was in that contract. I think that option's in there for him to take, is it? He had a 2-year contract for 19 and 20 with his option. He has taken that option. What to say, that is in there anyway. Who cares about real life at the moment? It's crap, isn't it? But anyway, he's extended his contract another year and will once again partner Esteban Ocon. Ocon has left the Mercedes umbrella. George Russell is the one to take over from Lewis Hamilton, it seems like. Max Verstappen has joined there. No real room for Esteban Ocon to rejoin. He's there. He's now with Renault full time, out from the Mercedes umbrella. If Lewis retires, or Lewis actually is just here with Mercedes for Storyline wise, not in the game because everything's just set up for me to edit later on. Lewis, storyline wise, is here for 1 year. Could he make a move to Ferrari after next year if a seat opens up anywhere else down here? If McLaren improve, could Lewis jump to McLaren? There's all sorts of questions that we're going to get into here. Renault do have an expected finish of 2nd. Their car is right up there. It's pretty much on a par with the Red Bull. Their driver lineup with Ricciardo and Ocon really strong as well. Pretty good. Not as good as Red Bull, but actually better than the Ferrari lineup. So Renault pushing here, an expected finish of 2nd for them. Mercedes are actually 3rd. Ferrari expected 1st there, obviously with the strongest car. And Red Bull 4th. They look actually the strongest here, but obviously that does come down to what the engine is and whatnot. I'm actually a little bit out of the loop. It's been a while since I actually went over the car database to know which car's better where. Anyway, skipping to Williams, then we got a brief glimpse at the Williams livery there. But anyway, here is McLaren sticking with the orange and blue. I do like the orange and blue with the black. I do really like the livery colours. McLaren, my favourite team. But I'm not playing as them. I've already done a series with them. You can go back and watch that if you want. It's from probably 3 years ago. But anyway, 2019 was an improvement. 2020 saw improvement again. Now powered by Mercedes. Will McLaren see further improvement? 2021 promises to be a competitive season with Renault and Aston Martin, who we've gone over here. Aston Martin rebranded. Racing Point rebranded to Aston Martin. And Aston Martin showing big improvements as well. Can McLaren break out from the pack, or will they still be the best of the rest? Stability comes in the form of Sainz and Norris remaining as the driver for a 3rd season in a row. Obviously, I'm not going to break up that driver partnership. That driver partnership is gold. Sainz and Norris always up for a laugh. Good friends on and off the track. As we said, McLaren now powered by Mercedes. The car not there though still. It is a pretty good car though. It is quite highly rated, but it is sort of a midfield car, so they are still quite a bit behind. They are expected to finish the best of the rest in 5th place. Will it get there? Can Sainz and Norris hold it together this season and put in another good slog for the McLaren team? We move on to Williams, an expected finish of 7th. Not at the back of the field. Obviously, the driver lineup not there. The car not quite there, but we've reverted back to this livery. I love this livery. This is the livery I grew up on watching Formula 1 all the way back in the late 80s and 90s when I was a little kid. But anyway, here we go. Williams, former behemoths of Formula 1 that have fallen from heavy heights to the bottom. Still powered by Mercedes, the Williams team are hoping that the 2021 season will see some much needed improvement. They've been working hard on the 2021 car and hope that it can be competitive. Nicholas Latifi is in for his 2nd year at Williams, whilst Kevin Magnussen, who lost his drive with Haas, has made the move to the Grove-based outfit. So Magnussen in for Williams. George Russell has moved somewhere else. George Russell moved out from the Mercedes umbrella. Well, he hasn't moved out from the Mercedes umbrella. He's still under contract with Mercedes. He possibly will, more than likely, will be moving in to the Mercedes seat, but who's gone from William? It is Latifi and Magnussen here. Predicted finish of 7th. Can they do that? Obviously, the personnel is really good. The HQ is pretty good. Pit crew, one of the best. Obviously, we've gone over Audi. We know we've got Vettel, Verlaine. And just to mention, we do have Stoffel Van Dorn as our reserve driver. Storyline-wise, Verlaine and Van Dorn were battling it out over pre-season for that 2nd seat. Verlaine returning from Formula E. Van Dorn returning for Formula E as well from Mercedes. Battled it out. There could be a change mid-season if Verlaine is not up to scratch. That seat could swap about. But anyway, we'll get on to the Alfa Romeo car. Steady as she goes. Slowly improving as always. 2020 was a steady year for the Swiss-based outfit. Raikkonen has decided to step away from F1, at least for now. And filling his seat is the dependable Valtteri Bottas, who found himself without a seat at Mercedes following 4 years of the team. Obviously, no room for him there with Max Verstappen joining the team. With 2 wins to his name last year, Bottas will be hoping to keep his C40, the chassis name, for this Alfa this year, in and around the top 10 this year. Partnering Bottas will be Antonio Giovinazzi, who has had a tough 2 years whilst at Alfa, but will be hoping that Alfa continues their upward trend to score him some top 10 finishes this year. So Alfa Expected to finish 9th here. Their car a little bit under par, but obviously with Bottas in this car, the driver lineup is better than the Williams, a little bit better than McLaren, which is strange because Sainz and Norris are a little bit highly rated, but Valtteri Bottas might be about 4.5 stars. Alfa expected to finish 9th. That is actually quite a bit lower than I was expecting. But then again, all these midfield teams with the 2021 regulations quite compacted. It's going to be interesting to see whether we can stay ahead of that pack. Who's going to be ahead of that pack is going to be quite an interesting question. Obviously, we've got the big 4 teams here battling it out for the title at the moment. But Alfa, Bottas, Giovinazzi hoping that he can keep his drive safe in F1. Disappointing 2 years over 2019 and 2020. Can I have a better 2021? Keep this Alfa drive. You never know. Alfa partnered with Ferrari. He will be gunning for that seat from Nico Hülkenberg if he can improve. But anyway, we move on to another of the big changes here. Aston Martin. Tried a little bit with the livery. I've put this. Yeah, that is a sponsor. That is actually on there. I thought I'd put that on the livery. You can tell it's actually a sponsor because it doesn't quite attach to the 3D model of the car. But anyway, we move on. Formerly known as Jordan, Midland F1, Spiker, Force India and Racing Point, and now Aston Martin, following the buyout by Lawrence Stroll. Looking to continue their upward trend with new financial backing and a close relationship with Mercedes, including use of the Brackley-based outfit's wind tunnel, engines, and George Russell, the driver hotly tipped to take over from Lewis Hamilton when he finally decides to hang up his boots. Or, in parentheses, moves to another team. That could happen. Partnering Russell, who has moved to Aston Martin, Mercedes engines in this Aston Martin. Will Aston Martin develop their new engines in the future? Obviously, Aston Martin going bust, rescued by Lawrence Stroll. Obviously, they don't have the capacity at the moment to build their own engines, but anyway. Partnering Russell will be Stroll's own son, Lance Stroll, who has slowly improved and is looking to prove that he belongs in Formula 1. So the driver lineup not the best. The car is pretty much there for the midfield. Is that we're only a tiny little bit better than the Aston Martin? Obviously, a lot of knowledge there. The HQ's not quite there. Sharing facilities with Mercedes is obviously going to allow them to develop pretty quickly. So we could be seeing the Aston Martin maybe move a lot quicker up the field than maybe the teams down here. Maybe it is quite a tough midfield with McLaren, Williams, Audi, Alfa, Aston Martin, and then these teams pulling up as well. As I've said, it's just a difficult midfield. It's going to be quite an interesting battle. Haas, we move on. Red, white and blue, the American team. At the tail end of 2020, Haas announced they would be moving to Renault powered cars in 2021, moving entirely away from Ferrari. No custom parts from Ferrari or anything like that in 2021. Haas obviously impacted their car a little bit here. They've got quite a decent driver lineup there, as we'll see in a second. With Renault looking strong for 2021, Haas will be hoping their VS21 Challenger will hit the ground running with a strong driver lineup. Sergio Perez, having found himself beaten to the Ferrari drive by Hülkenberg, found himself settling at Haas, whilst reigning IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden has made the leap to Formula 1 in hopes of replicating his success in Indy. So quite a big move there, Joseph Newgarden. Can he get his feet, or can he hit the ground running in Formula 1? This Haas car, not the best. He's going to have quite a tough time here. Is he going to use this American team as a springboard to a bigger team? Can he prove himself at Haas? Obviously, if he does well against Sergio Perez, he's going to find himself being suited up, poached by a bigger team maybe, unless Haas can get their acting gear, pretty much. I was going to say another word then. We'll try to avoid swearing in this season. I can't promise I can avoid swearing, but we've got an expected finish of 10th there. Aston Martin 8th. Where does it think we'll come? 6th. Might be a little bit of a push, but obviously Vettel should be scoring points for us here. Whether Verlaine can score points is another question entirely. We move on to AlphaTauri, obviously rebranded from Scuderia Toro Rosso in 2020. We move on. A different livery. We swapped the grey and blue around here a little bit this year. For 2020, it's the other way around. Try to get it on there the best I could. I couldn't make it look at all like the 2020 car, but it's quite good. Anyway, following the rebrand in 2020, AlphaTauri had a steady year last year. This year they're expected to finish 11th. Gasly has continued to grow as a driver after the demotion from Red Bull and looks to improve once again. Following the signing of Alonso, Gasly may need to look outside the Red Bull team if he is to find a drive. He is to find a drive and car capable of better. Yeah, that does make sense. Partnering Gasly this year following the departure of Kvyat will be Juri Vips, fresh off his title win in Super Formula. The Estonian driver is looking to get to grips with Formula 1 quickly and stake his claim for a drive in the main Red Bull Honda team. So, we've got Gasly and Vips here. Will Red Bull opt for Gasly? How long is Alonso going to last at Red Bull? It's going to be a fight between Gasly and Vips. Obviously Red Bull at the moment looking more towards Vip, thinking that he could be their future drive, hoping that Alexander Albon can get up to speed and keep this Red Bull team competitive. Anyway, Alpha, the car, not there at all this year, which is quite a differential there between the two cars. It is quite a decent car. Most of these cars do have their strengths, and they are all pretty similar in the midfield. It is rated quite lowly. But anyway, Gasly and Vips hoping that they can get something out of this AlphaTauri. And then we move on. The 12th team, the new team joining Formula 1, Prema, the Prema power team. A feeder team for Ferrari, you say? While sharing a wind tunnel, having the same engine and using Ferrari driver academy prospects doesn't make them a feeder. Who are we kidding? Yeah. Prema is more or less a feeder team to Ferrari, much in the same way that AlphaTauri is to Red Bull Honda. Having made the decision to race in Formula 1, Prema has suspended his efforts in F2, but will continue on in other categories. Mick Schumacher, Michael Schumacher's son, and Robert Schwartzman move up with Prema and have retained their seats. Obviously, they're driving Formula 2 for Prema. They've just moved up, both under the Ferrari umbrella, both hoping to state their claim. Obviously, there's a lot of suitors for that second seat at Ferrari. Hülkenberg is in there at the moment. Obviously, Perez has always wanted that second seat at Ferrari. So many drivers gunning for that seat. Giovinazzi, a returning Kimi Räikkönen, maybe at some point he's still in this game. Whether he will retire or not before he gets another drive in Formula 1, we never know. But Prema, that car is actually looking pretty handy. Obviously, they have Ferrari engines. A lot of the concept in storyline wise has been borrowed, shall we say. It's against the regulations. Just take things, but obviously certain parts can be moved across from the Ferrari. It's a Ferrari feeder team, much in the same way as AlphaTauri is to Red Bull. But yeah, Schumacher obviously will more than likely be in that Ferrari seat at some point. Obviously, they've got a lot of work to do, this Prema power team, a long-standing team, race team outside of Formula 1. Obviously, not quite up to Formula 1 standards, and Schumacher and Schwartzman do have a lot of improving to do. So possibly the worst driver lineup in at the moment. They are expected to finish 12th. There is no relegations from this season from the championship or anything, so these 12 teams will be here unless I decide to swap someone out in the future. Someone could theoretically just go. We could see a BMW, a Geely, maybe a Volvo from Geely or something like that join the series at some point if I feel like it, or there's a strong sort of want for that to happen. But at the moment, these are the 12 teams. It's looking to be an outstanding season here. What can we do with our Audi Sport team? Obviously, I need to go ahead and change this livery. We will be seeing the new livery in the next episode of this video, which will be us going through the lead up to the race. Obviously, I've got to keep all the cars equal going into the race, so there's editing that needs doing to the database before we get to a race. Obviously, keeping the computer competitive with us. If you remember back to one of my earlier series with the Ferrari, we just blew away the rest of the field. At certain points, we were like a second ahead, quicker a lap and stuff like that, even though we were playing on like difficulty 3 at the time. We were just blowing away the rest of the field. But anyway, we're going to see what we can do with this Audi Sport team. I'm looking forward to this again. Really back into this game. Obviously, Formula 1 being cancelled at the moment. And I love F1. Absolutely love Formula 1. So we're going to jump into a new series. Hope you like this season preview. We'll be back possibly tomorrow. Maybe we'll make it Sunday. race day. We'll put a race out on Sunday. Put the Australian Grand Prix on Sunday when it should be. Hopefully I can get that recorded later today or tomorrow. I'll get that on for then. But anyway, that's it. That's the season preview. 2021. We're getting a preview of what could happen in 2021. Obviously, a lot of what's if and buts about this, but yeah. Looking forward to this one. Hope you are as well. Good to be back. Thanks for watching.